Hello guys, welcome to the day 28 of our coding challenge series, and today we are solving this problem. Check if bitwise OR has trailing zeros. So we are given an array of positive integers nums, and we have to check if it is possible to select two or more elements in the array such that the bitwise OR of the selected elements has at least one trailing zero in its binary representation. So for example, the binary representation of 5, which is a odd number, it is 101, right? Like this is 1 and then 2 and then 4, right? So 4 plus 1 is 5. It does not have any trailing zeros, so we see it in fact doesn't has any trailing zeros because there is a 1 over here. Whereas the binary representation of 4, which is 100, has two trailing zeros. You can see that these are two trailing zeros. Return true if it is possible to select two or more elements whose bitwise OR has trailing zeros, and if not, so we return false. So let's understand the examples. Before solving the example 1, I want you guys to understand this basic pattern first, that if we have the decimal numbers 0 to 10, so the representation of even numbers such as you can take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 will always have a 0 at the beginning. So this is called a trailing 0. But whenever you see the odd numbers such as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so you will see with the odd representations in binary form a trailing 1. So first of all, we need to make this clear that if we are representing the odd decimal values in binary, so we will have a trailing 1. But if we are representing an even decimal value in binary, so we will have a 0 at the beginning, a trailing 0, as you can see. So now let's understand this thing, that if we have two even decimal values and if we want to do binary if we want to do bitwise OR of these two decimal values, so you can see I have done this here. So if you have a binary representation for 2 like this and then 4 like this, so the result that you will get will be an even number as well. And as we understood from this example, that even numbers will always have a trailing 0, right? So when we add two, or when we do bitwise OR of two even numbers, even plus even will also result an even number in an even decimal number, as you can see this one. So with even number we always get a trailing 0. But in the case when we have even plus even bitwise OR with an odd decimal number, you can see that we are doing 2 which is even, 3 which is odd. So when we do that, we know that even has trailing 0, odd has trailing 1, so the result will have a trailing 1 which would not which would be a odd number. Okay, and in the third example we are doing bitwise OR of two odd numbers. So we have 3 as odd number, then 3 as odd number, so we also get a odd number and we see that it has a trailing 1. But in the question you would have seen that we want to select two or more elements whose bitwise OR has trailing zeros, right? So if we select at least two numbers, so we need to select two even numbers, right? Because otherwise we will get a trailing 1, right? By understanding these examples, we can deduce that if we have at least two even decimal numbers, and if we perform bitwise OR of those decimal even decimal numbers, so we will always get a result which will be an even number, and we know that even number have a trailing 0. So that's why we need to select from the nums array even numbers, right? Only even numbers. We don't need to consider odd numbers at all, because odd numbers always have a trailing 1. So now let's understand the example 1. Okay, example 1 was given as that nums array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as we understood that to perform bitwise OR, we need to select two or more elements, right? So we will obviously select, as we discussed, two even numbers, right? At least two even numbers, and if we have more, so we can select more as well. but because they will always give a result, the bitwise OR of all the even numbers, an even number which will have a trailing 0, right? So from this array we know that 2 is even and 4 is even, so we can select these two elements, right? And since in the question it said that return true if it is possible to select two or more elements whose bitwise OR has a trailing zeros. So yes, we can select two elements at least, so we will return true in this case. But if we have only, for example, one even number, such as only 2 in this array, if there is no 4, so we would have returned false, because there is only one even number and all the numbers are odd in the array. And in the case when we even don't have or any even number and all the numbers are odd, in that case too we will return false. Okay guys, let's solve this. So first I'll initialize a variable integer count even numbers equals to 0. So and then run a loop for integer I equals to 0, I lesser than nums dot length and I plus plus, and then check if the nums at value I is even by dividing it by 2, but like doing percentage 2 and checking if the remainder is equal to 0, that means it is even. If it's even, so we will increment the count even variable, and after doing that, as you already know, that we need to check if at least we will return to if it is possible to select two or more elements whose bitwise OR has trailing zeros, right? So we need to select at least two even numbers, right? So we can do like if count even is greater than equals to 2, so we return true, and if it doesn't work, so we will just simply return false. So we have if we have at least two even numbers in the array, in the nums array, so we know, as we understood, that if we do bitwise operation of two even numbers, so we get a trailing 0, right? So we return true. So as soon as it count even will reach 2, so we will just return true. But if there is only one even number, so of course this loop will not work. Sorry, this if condition won't be executed and we would return false, because we don't need one even number to have a trailing 0. We need two even numbers at least to have a trailing 0. And yeah, so yeah, I hope you guys understood the code. So let's run this. Let's submit this. Okay, so we got a perfect runtime of 0 millisecond. If you guys have any questions, you can ask them in the comment section, and then see you guys in the next video.